S-Q-U-I-R-E-S. All right, but go ahead, just name and address for the record, Laura.
My name is Laura Squires. I live in Farragut currently. I have been living in Knox County off and on since the year 89. I've owned, pardon? Yes. I have owned a home in Knoxville City. I have owned 5 homes in Knox County, and I currently own a home in Farragut. I'm also a very poor public speaker. Please bear with me. I'm here tonight to ask for Knox County Commission's assistance in an issue that you are probably slightly familiar with. You probably saw this in a PowerPoint projection a couple of years ago, and you thought, oh, that's never going to happen. But it has. And this is related to the deployment of 5G cellular antenna in neighborhoods in Knoxville, Knox County, and Farragut. It sounds futuristic. In front of you, you have a document that I copied from the submission Verizon or their applicant provided to the town of Farragut. On the left, you see a picture of the house as it currently exists. On the right, you see a picture of what Verizon intends to do with a 5G cellular antenna in front of that home. The situation we face is that due to House Bill 2279, which is on page 2, we have essentially lost our ability as Tennesseans to defend ourselves against being overrun by 5G cellular antenna in our residential areas. This bill was passed in May of 2018 without the knowledge or consent of most Tennesseans, and certainly with no benefits to any Tennessee property owner. Back to page 1. When you go home tonight, please realize that this can happen in your neighborhood and you're powerless to defend yourself against it as long as it goes in a public right-of-way. What's difficult to imagine is this is one cellular carrier. They can all do it. They can put as many as they want, wherever they want, in the public right-of-way. I come tonight to plead for your help to join alongside Town of Farragut. If you look at page 3 of my document, page 16 of HB 2279, this law, when passed, remains under review and comes back to the Tennessee General Assembly January of 2021. It is still being evaluated by a committee called the Tennessee Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations, or TASER. Bullet point 1 being evaluated is the impact on deployment of broadband. Well, I and my neighbors are being impacted. If you would please turn the page, Town of Farragut worked to develop a resolution and has sent this resolution as Town of Farragut's position. We need help. Town of Farragut cannot fight this alone. We just unfortunately are in part of the first residential deployment. I dare say that if this continues through Knox County, you will have residents just like me from Whittington Creek and Mallard Bay and maybe even Cherokee Boulevard standing before you and asking for help. I am here so that you can't say you didn't know. It can be any number of towers. The density right now mostly proposed is 1 tower per 8 to 10 homes. Imagine that. Imagine how many homes are on your street. 1 tower every 8 to 10 homes. According to Verizon, I apologize, I shouldn't quote it that way. Some industry representatives say that a tower has to be in a direct line of sight to receive service. Think about that. Everybody's house is going to be able to see one. Sometimes they propose co-locating, putting, for example, an AT&T and a Verizon transmitter on the same tower. To this, I am also opposed. Why should any one property take a hit like that on their property to save someone else from having a pole in their yard? Again, I came tonight so that you can't say you didn't know. This will affect my neighborhood. It's already been wired. The picture on the front page is the street immediately behind me. I'm here to ask for your help. There are 4 items on the last page. Number 1, and I don't know if this is appropriate per protocol, but if so, I would like for you to discuss 5G residential areas tonight in tonight's work session and appoint a commissioner to coordinate writing a resolution to oppose any, much less the unbridled, residential deployment in Knox County. Number 2, to vote and pass a resolution at the next county commission meeting on June 22nd. Number 3, jointly with Farragut to go to Governor Bill Lee to halt any additional residential deployment until TASER reports back to the General Assembly in January of 2021. And number 4, and most importantly, for Knox County Commission to have a joint meeting with all state representatives and state senators representing Knox County to draft a new legislation for introduction in January of 2021 to protect neighborhoods, property owners, and Tennessee citizens from the invasion of an unknown number of towers, antenna, and poles in Knox County residential areas. In closing, this is urgent, it cannot wait, and please start tonight your actions to protect Knox County residents and neighborhoods. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next is Marla Stairwood.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Commissioner Daly's got a question for you.
I've been keeping up with this. I've been keeping up with this some. I know that you all had a meeting with Representative Zachary and maybe Dr. Briggs. How did that go? That's been about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, something like that?
Well, what would be very informative if you would take your time, and I have communicated directly and spoken directly both with Senator Briggs and Jason Zachary. I had an email back from Jason this morning. They both worked tirelessly for us throughout the month of February to try to form a piece of legislation to try to get some boundaries around this. It was presented on March 4th to the Tennessee House Subcommittee on Utilities. There were circumstances that may have prevented a good vote that day because it was right after the tornado. So Jason Zachary, our state representative, spent some time after the meeting, along with David Smoke, our town administrator, with representatives from Verizon and AT&T. They came to some agreement that was to have worked for us going forward. But I don't care if it's a pretty pole or an ugly pole. I don't want a pole every 8 to 10 houses in Farragut, in Knox County, or anywhere else I go. So they have worked for us. Jason Zachary continues to work with the town of Farragut. They all continue to help. But we're not big enough to stop this alone, and we need your help to get Knox County on board to go to Governor Bill Lee. The advantage Farragut has over anyone else so far, and our town attorney said in a BOMA meeting online about 3 to 4 weeks ago, that Verizon wasn't used to seeing this type of uproar. Please, I'm not quoting directly, I'm just paraphrasing based on what I recall. Well, we have the advantage of knowing, because to put these towers in Farragut, you had to have come before the Planning Commission. I don't even know what the process is in Knox County. I can't figure it out. Today I emailed a gentleman named Jeff Archer. He's no longer with MPC. Then I emailed a female, I believe her name Amy Brock. I've not yet heard back. So yes, there has been work done, but that work was withdrawn and pulled, as I understand it, to gain whatever agreement was gained related to aesthetics.
We had, 2 years ago, Commissioner Schoonmaker, I believe, we had a big presentation on it. We seen this coming. Commissioner Schoonmaker, it was coming to Farragut first.
He has served me excellently.
Yeah.
He has sat at the meetings with me.
And we seen that this was coming. Did we not, this might be a question for Mr. Snow, did we not come up with a guideline or looked at engineering to look at a guideline? Thank you for coming.
But
Yeah,
this is,
and-
everybody needs your help.
Yeah,
I'll
we
recognize
did,
John.
but we
Yeah.
got circumvented by not only the state, but then the Federal Communications Commission. So that was my other question is, well, first off, Farragut is the only entity in the state of Tennessee that actually can get approval from its Metropolitan Planning Commission because of the way theirs was set up. No other entity, we can't do that here in Knox County. But I'm a little confused on your third question here. I didn't think the governor could actually put a halt to 5G going in because they're now classified by the federal government as public utilities.
Well, what is interesting about the state of Tennessee is not all states have their own internal law regulating 5G deployment, small cell deployment. Tennessee is one of the few.
Okay.
The Tennessee law, according to certain meetings I have attended, is much tighter in places than is the federal law. If we were fighting the federal law, we'd be better off than the Tennessee law. That is why I'm asking for your help with Bill Lee related to House Bill 2279. We have to fight what has been done to us as a Tennessean before we can fight what is done to us under the FCC. But thank you all for listening to me. And it is coming to your neighborhood. Look down your street tonight and imagine what it'll look like with multiple poles in front of your neighbors' homes.
And the key is when the folks are putting the fiber optics underground in front of your house, that's usually the signal that 5G is coming because that has to be first before the tower goes up.
If I may speak once more, as you drive home tonight, look across the interstate, look down the highways. You will see small PVC white tubes popping up out of the ground with an orange end cap. As I understand it, that is the 5G fiber optic. That is what's been laid in front of my house, the street behind me, Sweetbriar. we need your help. These are going to infest us, and they are going to multiply, and we are currently defenseless. Maybe Bill Lee can't do a whole lot, but maybe he'll listen, at least if Knox County and Farragut go hand in hand and say, this is absurd. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you. All right, next we've got Marla Stairwood.
Good evening. I'm Marla Stairwood at 1224 Snyder School Road. I'm in District 6, Commissioner Anders. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you all tonight about 5G. I'm going to try to read from my notes as much as possible for the sake of clarity and brevity. There are several issues to discuss about 5G. One is the surveillance issue. That's very important, especially as we have contact tracing bills to look at and tracking citizens. And then there's the property decrease issue. All those are important, but I'm going to focus on the health issues tonight. We're told that the 5G is the foundation for reaching the full potential of the Internet of Things, and to make it all happen, we've got to have these poles, these antennas, like Laura just told you about. 5G is not going to replace the current technology. It adds to. We are talking about a quantum leap in what we've been using and what 5G would bring us. It will subject us to more of the sub-millimeter and millimeter waves on top of what we've already been exposed to. You know, what's not safe about that, right? Everybody says, I've got it now, I'm not sick, I'm okay. Well, it's going to be a big deal. What the FCC and the telecom industry won't tell you are the numerous studies proving harm from wireless radiation exposure. There are several from the military in the 70s and 80s. Sharon Goldberg testified regarding her study at a Michigan 5G small cell tower legislation hearing October 4th, 2018, explaining why 5G shouldn't be rolled out. And she told them there are significant connections to blood sugar, diabetes, congestive heart failure, cancer. They listened closely to her testimony, asked her to stay over to answer questions, still voted for 5G. But her study is particularly compelling. A particularly outstanding study released in 2008 by the National Toxicology Program, that's a division of our own National Institute of Health, it concluded that there's very clear evidence of harm from exposure to radio frequency radiation, specifically RFRs used for 2G and 3G. Okay, we're using 4G now, right? This study took 30 years to complete, found the subjects consistently developed cancerous tumors of the brain, heart, reproductive organs. It goes on. 5G supporters love to say of this study, and the FCC and the industry people love to say, yeah, but that study was on rats, wasn't it? Yeah, most of our medical studies, as a matter of fact, 95% of our medical studies are conducted on rats and mice. That's acceptable standard procedure. So why doesn't the industry, why doesn't the FCC acknowledge this study? Because it shows proof of harm. We could stand here all night and talk about the different studies that show proof of harm. National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences designated power frequency electromagnetic fields possible human carcinogenics. In March 2002, the International Association on Research of Cancer and the World Health Organization, we're all familiar with the WHO, right, assigned the same designation to their monographs of the evaluation of carcinogenic risks to humans after proof of harm. Firefighters in California in 2015 all became ill because they had a 2G tower near their station. They all did brain scans. They were all the same, and that is proof of harm. They have a resolution now keeping all of the towers away from fire stations in California. So that was 2G. If we're talking proof of harm for the last 30 years on previous generations, what makes us feel 5G is going to be safe? And not everyone agrees with this because, or the industry, the scientists from over 40 countries wrote the 5G appeal, and you can find that. As a matter of fact, I will send all of you links to all of this information if you like. But these scientists from over 40 countries signed what they called a 5G appeal, asking for a moratorium on the rollout of 5G until potential hazards for human health and the environment have been fully investigated by scientists independent from industry, because they know 5G will substantially increase exposure to RF, EMF on top of what we already use today. And that's an important phrase, independent of industry. The FCC will guide you to its studies that all show 5G safe. That's a conflict of interest. We can't trust their studies. So you must find studies that are independent of industry. Something the FCC and industry folk don't like to linger on either is the fact that the FCC study that they used to prove safety was in 1996, okay? That was before 5G even came along.
Okay. Hey, Marla?
Have
All
more
right.
time up?
Yes, but I mean, it sounds like you're going to be able to email us some, all those notes and everything. I mean, you can go another minute out of
Okay.
fairness, but
What I
I know
would
we've got
like-
a couple other speakers that do want to speak as well.
What I'd like
so.
to instill today is a plea that as you research these issues, as you see applications from telecom or industry participants, as you wonder, is it safe for my child or my grandchild to sleep 30 feet from one of these poles, please invoke precautionary principle. Citizens in Knox County, Knoxville, Farragut need your intense focus, your critical thinking skills, and your discernment, especially now, more than ever. I'm a firm believer that forcing this industry promulgated carcinogenic genotoxin upon the public is criminal, and we do not consent.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Chris, let me make sure I've got this. Chris with a K, Zani, or Z-A-N-O-N-I, Zani? Okay.
Zanoni, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, just if you could state your name and address clearly for the record, please.
My name is Chris Zanoni. I live in 1829 Granada Boulevard, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37922. My husband and I have 5 children. We live in the Bluegrass School area of West Knoxville. Thank you all for hearing me today. I agree with my neighbor from Farragut regarding, as a Knox County citizen living in West County, that we do not want the small cell towers showing up in our neighborhoods. I've talked to, just over the weekend, just under 20 people, my neighbors in neighboring communities. None of them were aware that this is going on. Some having underground utilities like Farragut will be very angry, I think, to see workers in their front right-of-way trying to install these towers. I think it's growing, and it's a big problem. And I agree with Marla that there are no independent safety studies showing that 5G non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation beginning at 24 gigahertz is safe for the residents of Knox County who will be exposed to this radiation 24/7. Did you know that the telecom companies installing 5G infrastructure cannot get insurance against harm to human health? Corporate insurers like Lloyd's of London will not insure electromagnetic radiation issues at all. So even if you do not believe any of the scientific studies and peer-reviewed studies that explain how these EMRs cause biological harm, wouldn't that give you reason to question its safety and consider having a halt for it to be investigated further before it's allowed in our neighborhoods and in our schools? These cell towers will also be out on apartment rooftops and, like I said, schools where children are. Pregnant women will be exposed. People with health conditions, immunocompromised people will be exposed. Can you also tell me what company is testing existing cell towers in Knox County on an individual basis to make sure they are not presently exceeding FCC safety guidelines? Does anyone know? Okay. Is the industry regulated at all to show the amount of radiation coming from the existing towers is within FCC guidelines? Out of an abundance of caution through the COVID-19 epidemic, our government has shut down A great percentage of our country's economy closed schools, people have lost their jobs, small businesses have completely gone out of business, elderly have been secluded in retirement homes, not allowed visitors, depression and suicide rates have increased, all out of the abundance of caution for public safety to prevent people from getting sick and dying. And I ask, shouldn't, out of an abundance of caution, the installation of 5G be halted? We're not anti-technology, but halted to make sure it's safe before it's implemented. Dr. Martin Paul, who has studied EMRs for many years and its effects on the body, published his first paper in 2013 on the effects of radiation on calcium channel blockers, which means how it affects the heart. It was cited 219 times in scientific literature, as is listed in the Google Scholar database. You can check that, which means it was widely recognized, and that was even before 5G. Per Dr. Paul, exposure to electromagnetic radiation can cause tachycardia, fast heart rate, bradycardia, slow heart rate, cardiac arrhythmias. And so I ask, how would you feel if your high school son was playing football and had a sudden heart attack? You could say it was just a fluke, or you might wish you could go back to this meeting today and done all you could to help 5G from being installed in Knox County. And I have not even addressed the studies, the strong evidence of regarding, as Marla was talking about, other parts, other body systems, like the reproductive system or the effects on the nervous system. Please act now in representing the people of Knox County to Governor Lee, joining our neighbors in Farragut, asking that 5G installation be halted until thorough research can be done. And I would like to submit a resolution to the commission today for Knox County, if I may.
You're welcome to submit it, and you're right at your time slot here, so
And
go
I
ahead and
am
hand it
done.
down. All
I
right,
am
thank
done.
you.
Yes, thank you. Who would I give this to?
You can hand it to the young lady.
Thank you very much.
Yep. All right, thank you. Next is Kathy Sharp.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Kathy. If you could name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kathy Sharp. I live at 716 Woodchase Drive in Knoxville. I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about something. I usually don't come to these kind of meetings because most of you guys at the commission level and what you're doing is going like it's very smooth, right? Everything's working, the budget's going, you know, everything goes. But every now and then we come across something that we get passionate about. So I want to not come across very strong. I support you. Thank you very much for all your service and what you do. We wouldn't be who we are today without the generosity of your service. So I thank you for that. I want to describe, first of all, my background. I'm a radiochemist. That's a chemist who studies things that are radioactive. And in conjunction with that, we look at a lot of things about the safety. So we take somebody that's familiar with this and we look at the health physics of the application. So that's my background, okay? So when I heard about, and I'm a trainer and I make instruments that measure radiation, so I'm all about technology, all about the internet. But when I heard about that I'm now going to have an exposure at my house, where I sleep, where my family is, where my schools are, I really got concerned. And the reason I got concerned is because in radiation, the way that we protect ourselves is we spend less time around it. We are further away from it, or we put something between us and the radiation to keep safe. And so I want you to know that even though radio waves and cell towers are less energetic than, say, gammas and X-rays and UV vis, it's still electromagnetic. And the more we're exposed, the more our body has damage. And that's just pure and simple physics. And so one of the things that would be really nice is if we could put together some studies that takes time, but couldn't we just approach 5G in the business place? Couldn't we just look at 5G as a solution to our business problems? Because when I go to work, I'm given a badge, I'm given a TLD, I'm given a hard hat, I'm given steel-toed shoes, I'm given safety glasses, lab coat, everything I need to be safe. So when I go in the workplace, I accept the hazards. I accept the hazards that I go there. And so the thing that really concerns me is that now we have people in their homes that are not scientists like me. They are going about their business. They might be accountants, they might be teachers, they might serve food at a restaurant, they could be a car mechanic, but they're not health physicists. And so they're using the internet and they're going about their daily business, and this is a silent threat. It might burn your skin, you know, it might. It might take 5 to 10 years to develop cancer. It might take 2 if the cell tower is right outside your bedroom. So these kinds of things, we don't know how quickly that they'll branch out, but I just really feel like we should separate our work risk from our family risk. And I don't know why the 5G has to be in our neighborhoods first. So I want to conclude this with, why don't we try keeping it in the workplace for a while where professionals can measure the dose we're receiving and make sure we're safe. And if we can do it on the business level, then we can apply it to the public. So that's my appeal. And I'm hoping that maybe we can come up with some hybrid way to apply all this. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.